How a Romance Novel Saved the Galaxy by Ariana Deralte. Chapter 32, Holdan 3. When they arrived on planet Holdan decided to directly head to visit Clan La's compound. He and Obi-Wan would stay there until the Mandalore and the Jedi with him landed on planet. Faye had given both of them a hug before saying the Force was calling her and wandering off into the city. Clan La's compound was on the edge of Geldabe. They were a small clan. They could hardly support one of the larger ones near the city center, but this had also kept them clear of the bombings of the Civil War. It was laid out rather typically, with a central courtyard and gathering area, large communal kitchens, and private quarters for families or individuals surrounding the rest of the courtyard. Like many of the smaller clans of Mandalore, they had around 10 to 30 members who could be in and out of the compound at any time, though there were some who lived there permanently, such as his boar. Holdan ushered a somewhat shy Obi-Wan into the building after giving his security code to the droid manning the gate. They found the clan members busy in the kitchen with breakfast. Holdan and Obi-Wan were welcomed warmly. The clan and they were practically vibrating in excitement at the Jedi in their midst. But they would have to wait. Holdan showed Obi-Wan over to the end of the long communal table where the clan head sat. Mavona was one of his boars au revolt. How much older, he could only speculate, but her hair was pure white. She had been a commando back in the day, and her straight back and build still reflected that even though she was only wearing Beskar Vam braces at the moment. "So this is the Jessica," she said, squinting at him. Everyone was aware she needed some corrective work on her eyes, except she stubbornly refused to even admit there was a problem. "Holdan contacted me today to tell me of our good fortune," she said, breaking into a smile. "Welcome to Clan La, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm Mavona La, the Elite Alor, the clan head in standard." Obi-Wan bowed from the waist. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Elite Alor. Thank you for having me." She waved her hands. "No need for thanks. Children are our future. Speaking of which, I believe they want to meet you." The clan addy nodded eagerly for where they had been blatantly eavesdropping. Holdan could see one other new face from when last he had been home. Obi-Wan's hands were seized, and he was dragged out to the courtyard surrounded by chatter.
"Breakfast is in 10!"
shouted Holdan's boar, Apar, coming up beside them. He held out his arms for a hug, which Holdan was happy to oblige.
"Welcome home, Antika,"
he said into Holdan's ear.
"I knew you'd be coming home with a bow ad for me one of these days."
His boar was hardly one to talk. The only reason that Holdan didn't have several other Vode is because the rest of Clan La kept adopting any ad they found before Apar could get to them. "Try to teach him a more Mandalorian greeting," said Mavona. Bows did tend to come off as subservient to Mandalorians. However, Obi-Wan was a Jedi too, so Holdan would explain the issue to him and let him decide.
"Yes, Babadoo,"
he said, since he wasn't insane enough to argue with her about it.
"You might hear from the Mandalore soon."
"We are sworn to House Ren. If they swear to him, then I'll talk to him."
Holdan let the issue be. Clan politics were ridiculously complicated. The three largest clans, Kriz, Ren, and Vizsla, were split several different ways amongst the three major factions in Mandalorian politics: the True Mandalorians, Death Watch, and the New Mandalorians. There were also a bunch of splinter factions, some representing some of the smaller clans, but others made up of random groups. For example, there was a splinter group from Death Watch called Children of the Watch, who deplored how much Death Watch was not going back to the traditional ways of the ancient Mandalorians. As far as Holdan could tell, they just really wanted to raise foundlings the traditional way, and not with the brainwashing and torture of Death Watch. The never taking their boucher off thing was a bit weird, though. But there were also the houses. Any clan with other clans sworn to them could call itself a house. So the three largest clans were also houses, and so was House Mareel, since there was a growing number of clans swearing themselves directly to the Mandalore. Houses Kriz, Ren, and Vizsla were all still neutral and not affiliated with any of the major or minor factions. So Clan La was sworn to House Ren, who remained neutral, and therefore Clan La remained neutral despite the fact that most of their members were true Mandalorians. While many clans were breaking away to swear to House Mareel and declare allegiance to the true Mandalorians and the Mandalore, Holden didn't think that was going to happen to Clan La anytime soon. The reason why was because Mavona's ad was in Death Watch. She wasn't going to declare an alliance that might get her kid kicked out of the clan. Considering the confrontation at Galadran, Holden had to wonder if his cousin was even alive at this point, but he wasn't stupid enough to ever bring that up around his clan head.
Sit down, Holden, and grab some food before they're talking your ears off,
suggested one of his Bavodu, Lilin. Their clan was small enough that pretty much everyone older than you got called either Bavodu or Odivode, regardless of their actual relation to you.
I'll go get the Attica.
Breakfast was fried tubers, Nuna bacon, and a salty, spicy soup with seaweed and soy chunks in it. Holden managed to get about halfway through his before the Ade and everyone else streamed in for breakfast. Obiga was in the middle of them, looking flustered but happy. Holden patted the seat beside him and piled food on the kid's plate.
So,
began Ababur. Holden froze. He knew that down.
you left here 2 months ago with a ship and a few credits. I returned with no ship, a Jedi ad, and possibly a Jedi Endure.
More, Holden groaned. There is no Endure. Faye and I are just friends. A glance at Obi-Wan revealed a growing look of amusement at realizing that yes, his Babur liked to tease. But you did lease an entire ship at some points, asked one of his Bavodu. Great, now they were all ganging up on him. The unchained casing cracked because it was 40 years old. It would have cost more than the ship was worth to fix it. I sold it for junk on Coruscant. He was not going to mention the shootout he'd had when the junk dealers tried to cheat him, since that was rather par for the course in the underworld of Coruscant. You didn't do anything to make it, correct? Asked Lurk, one of his Oravode. Holden shook his head.
No, it was just bad luck. Then I was stupid enough to spot a jetty and follow them onto a transport. Of course, then I met Obika, so it wasn't all bad luck.
Obi-Wan had his head down and was studiously eating his tumors, but his cheeks were flushed red again. Holden recounted the whole story, taking particular care to describe how awesome his added they were while trying to avoid talking about Jade entirely.
I have the hollow of Obi-Wan's fight, if you want to see.
He finished. Obi-Wan let out a grunt of dismay next to him. Lillian smiled at them both. It always looked super wide to him because her scarlet tattoos showing the Kivar clan she had originally belonged to traced their way up her cheeks from the edges of her lips, almost like wings.
Oh, we were sent that vid the moment you landed. The Ade have been dragon fighting all morning.
Various Ade around the table nodded their agreement. Oh my god, we're all good for that, said Kately, his 6-year-old Zabrak cousin, around a mouthful of bacon. Don't speak with your mouth full, said her long-suffering boar. Kately made the effort to swallow. Can we fight more after breakfast, Obi-Wan? She turned her very adorable wide hazel eyes on Obi-Wan. Very well, said Obi-Wan. It seems Jedi were as susceptible to the begging Tuga eyes as any of them were.
I'm Apara, your babor,
said his boar, and Holden realized he'd forgotten to introduce them before the clan Ade had dragged Obi-Wan off.
Nice to meet you, sir,
said Obi-Wan, nodding his head in a seated bow. His boar had a crooked smile due to a scar across his left cheek.
Please call me babor, Obi-Wan.
The moment the last piece of food was gone from Obi-Wan's plate, the Ade had him up and pulled out into the courtyard. Holden offered to help clean up, but he was waved off and told to go talk to his boar, who had also headed off the moment breakfast was finished. Holden headed over to their family quarters. His boar had the largest room, which he had shared with his Redur before they died a year after Holden was adopted. That was where he found his boar now, pulling his armor off its stand and putting it neatly into a box.
Boar, no.
Boar gave him a piercing look.
Obi-Wan needs Beskar armor. We're not rolling in extra armor like the larger clans, but I can give him my suit. But, Boar, I'm not using it, Holika,
said Burr ever so gently. Over 5 years ago, Upbor had gotten nerve damage from a poisoning gone wrong on one of their missions. On bad days, he had trouble holding a spoon steady, much less a blaster. He had fallen into depression about it for quite some time before Holden could convince him to talk to a therapist. Thankfully, he had improved after that. His boar was now working happily as a baji, or teacher, at the local school. It didn't stop Holden from being distressed at the idea of his boar giving up his armor.
You'll at least keep Kibbor's pauldron?
He asked. There were no rules on which piece of armor you could exchange with your Redur. Bor smiled.
Yes, and mine to match it. But the rest will go to Obika. I'm a big man, so even without the pauldrons, it should be enough to cover him, as long as he doesn't bulk up too much as an adult. It's going to be strange not seeing you in your armor,
admitted Holdan. Bor smiled and pointed at his closet.
I've still got my dirty steel set if I want to wear some. I'm not going new Mandalorian here.
Holdan laughed at the very idea, then sobered.
I'm not sure if we should tell Obika where the Beskar comes from or not. It's going to be hard to convince him. He's worth his Bor's armor.
Bor shook his head fondly.
Ah, so exactly like you at that age.
Holdan was far too mature to stick his tongue out at his Bor, but he wanted to.
Obi-Wan needs educational modules, Bor. The standard foundling set and anything else you think he might find interesting. If the clan Ade ever let him go long enough to talk to his Bor, I'll see what I can figure out.
His Bor was good at designing lessons that appealed to each child rather than just teaching a standard curriculum.
Well, let's go rescue him.
They found him out in the courtyard doing a handstand one-handed. Various rocks were floating around him that the clan Ade were either trying to get to move or piling more rocks on top of them for fun. Jedi sure had some weird training exercises.
Is it taboo for me to know your name?
Asked the Jedi. Nared hesitated. In some clans, you truly didn't share your name with outsiders. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case with his.
Oh well, maybe we can guess his name. What do you say, Kiri? Shall we guess?
The Jedi turned around so he was walking backwards, letting the ad get a good look, though of what Nared didn't know. He had his bougie on to protect him from the sun.
Alask, maybe? Oh, how about Bibfort?
He didn't speak any real besides curses, but the giggles of the ad told him he was being made fun of.
I am the Red of Clan Awad,
he snapped. The Jedi smiled at him.
Boom it, Nared.